Deep in the cold, silent reaches of uncharted space, the alien scout vessel Narration drifted between shadowed asteroids, its sleek hull gleaming dimly in the reflected starlight. The crew of the Narration was on a routine survey mission, scanning for resources, charting hazards, and avoiding attention. Their species, the Orcs, prided itself on efficiency, precision, and a cold logic that governed every decision. But then, something unexpected happened. A low hum vibrated through the ship's hull. The chief engineer, a slender figure named Trelzan, frowned at his console. "Captain, I'm picking up an energy signature. It's faint, but old. Very old. It's coming from the ancient beacon embedded in the station systems." The Orcs had stumbled upon a relic from a long-forgotten war, an archaic distress beacon designed to broadcast universally recognized SOS signals. Their ancestors had developed it millennia ago, and the technology was considered obsolete. In fact, the Orcs had strictly forbidden its use, believing the signal protocol lost to time and space. "Activate it?" the captain asked, skeptical. Trelzan's fingers hovered over the console. "If we do, the signal will broadcast across several light years. It's a universal distress call. But only a handful of species know the code. The Orcs aren't one of them anymore." The captain hesitated. They were alone. Vulnerable. In enemy territory. But the ancient beacon could summon aid if anyone was listening. "Do it." The Narisha's comm system roared to life, emitting a sharp, complex sequence of pulses. The signal spiraled outward, slipping through the vast cosmic silence. Back on Earth, thousands of light years away, the human fleet detected the mysterious burst almost instantly. Admiral Lana Pierce stood on the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, her sharp eyes scanning the sensor readouts. "Sir, we've intercepted an ancient protocol, an SOS signal. It's faint but unmistakable," reported Lieutenant Chang, voice tight with excitement. Lana's mind raced. Such a signal hadn't been detected in decades. "Source?" "Approximately 3 light years beyond the outer rim of the Kuiper belt," Chang answered. The Admiral narrowed her eyes. "That's close. Alert the fleet. Prepare to launch a reconnaissance mission immediately. This could be a trap, or it could be a first contact opportunity. Either way, we don't ignore it." The human fleet stirred into action. Ships powered up, weapon systems ran diagnostics, and communication channels buzzed with hurried chatter. For humanity, still grappling with its fragile place in the galaxy, a universal distress call was a siren promising either salvation or destruction. On the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, Lana felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders like never before. "Status on the alien fleet in the sector?" "None detected," Chang replied, brows furrowed. "Which is strange. A distress call this close should have an origin point or at least a nearby civilization." Lana exhaled slowly. "Then we go find out what, or who, is out there." Back aboard the Narration, the Orcs watched as the beacon finished its broadcast. Moments passed in tense silence. "Do you think anyone answered?" Trelzan asked, unease in his voice. Captain Rivlek stared into the void, his expression unreadable. "If they did, we will know soon enough." Human sensors flared. From the edge of the system, a blip emerged on the radar, an unexpected massive fleet jumping into real space. The human armada, sleek and formidable, responded faster and larger than the Orcs anticipated. Rivlek's eyes narrowed. Humans. So they heard. And they came. On Earth and in orbit, human crews braced for what might come next. There was no protocol for this. A call they never sent, answered by a whole armada they never expected. Admiral Pierce stared out at the star-speckled void. "Prepare for first contact. Let's show them who humanity really is." The signal had been a mistake, but the answer was anything but. The human armada emerged from the jump gate in a tight formation, a glittering array of warships cutting through the inky blackness. The ISS Vanguard led the fleet, its hull gleaming under distant stars, weapons humming softly in readiness. Admiral Lana Pierce stood at the command console, her eyes sharp and her jaw clenched. "All ships hold formation. Scan the asteroid cluster ahead for any signs of life or activity, she ordered. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of command. Sensors flickered to life, scanning the rocky debris field where the Vorax's signal originated. The readings were strange. An abandoned station, ancient but not destroyed, nestled among the floating stones. No life signs. No immediate threats. Looks deserted, reported Lieutenant Chang, fingers flying over his console. But the energy signature is still active. Someone's here. Or was here, Lana murmured. Suddenly the calm was shattered. From the darkness, sleek ships blinked into existence, alien vessels, triangular and sharp-edged, their hulls reflecting cold light. The Vorax fleet appeared like shadows sliding across the void, surrounding the human armada with precise, disciplined movement. Unknown fleet approaching, a junior officer called out. Lana's gaze sharpened. Open hailing frequencies. Attempt peaceful communication. The comm channels crackled with static, then silence. No response, Lieutenant Chang said, tension creeping into his voice. Minutes stretched, then a cold, authoritative voice filled the bridge. This is Commander Rivlek of the Vorax. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. Admiral Pierce met the challenge without hesitation. I am Admiral Lana Pierce of the United Earth Space Fleet. We received a distress signal from this sector and have come to investigate. We mean no hostility. A tense silence followed. Then the Vorax commander's voice cut in again. You answer a call you were not summoned for. Your presence is unauthorized. Leave this sector immediately or we will consider you enemies. Pierce's fingers hovered over the console, calculating. The Vorax were confident, well-armed, and clearly prepared for battle. But there was a hesitance beneath their stern words. We seek answers. We do not seek conflict, Pierce replied firmly. Before Rivlek could respond, alarms blared across both fleets. The asteroid cluster shook as a massive explosion rocked the area. An unaccounted-for Third Fleet burst from behind an asteroid. Ships, black and scarred, aggressive and overwhelming. It's the Predators, shouted a weapons officer. The Vorax and humans both turned to face the new threat, an ancient enemy of both races, merciless and ruthless. The Vorax commander barked orders, but the Predators attacked with brutal precision. The human fleet responded instantly, energy, beams cutting through the void, missiles streaking toward enemy ships. Chaos erupted. The ISS Vanguard shook as a Predator fighter exploded near the bridge. Lana gritted her teeth, voice calm despite the chaos. Deploy fighters. Target Predator. Command ships, we hold the line. Human pilots surged forward, weaving between Vorax vessels, their weapons blasting in a symphony of war. The Vorax fought fiercely, their movements synchronized but cold, calculating tactics based on raw data. Humans, however, fought with something else, raw passion, unpredictable maneuvers, and sheer grit. Lana's second-in-command, Commander Holt, shouted, "Admiral, we're outnumbered." "The Predators outgun us by nearly 3-1. Pierce's eyes flashed. "Then we fight smarter. Use the asteroids. Hit and run. We'll show them that humans don't back down." Amid the firefight, a daring human captain, Mara Jensen, broke formation. She piloted her fighter straight into the heart of the Predator fleet, her ship's engines screaming as she launched a suicide run against a Predator capital ship. Her attack crippled the enemy vessel's shields, giving the Alliance a critical advantage. "Captain Jensen, pull back," Pierce ordered. "No time, Admiral. I bought us a chance." Mara's voice crackled back, defiant and fierce. Her sacrifice bought the Vorax and humans precious moments. Together, they pushed back the Predator advance. When the dust settled, the Predators retreated. But the damage was severe. Ships were crippled, and lives lost on both sides. The Vorax commander's voice was quieter now, tinged with grudging respect. "Humans, you fight with reckless courage. I underestimated you." Lana nodded slowly. "And you overestimate your control. We answer calls intended or not, because humanity survives and thrives on chance." As emergency crews scrambled to aid the wounded and repair the battered ships, a fragile truce settled over the fleet. The human armada had arrived by accident, but now they were an undeniable force, unpredictable, fierce, and ready to face whatever came next. The asteroid cluster still hummed with residual energy from the recent battle. Smoke and debris drifted between the jagged rocks, and the ISS Vanguard bore the scars of close combat, scorch marks lining its hull, the faintest tremor still, echoing through its decks. Admiral Lana Pierce stood silently on the bridge, surveying the aftermath. Around her, the human armada was regrouping, crews working frantically to repair damaged ships and treat wounded personnel. Across the comm channels, similar sounds echoed. The Vorax fleet was doing the same. For a moment, the two forces lingered in uneasy silence, the gravity of what they had faced beginning to sink in. But there was no time for relief. A new alarm blared, sharp and insistent. "Admiral, you need to see this," Lieutenant Chang said, urgency slicing through the tension. Lana moved to his station. The main screen flickered to life, showing a wide scan of the sector. At the edge of sensor range, dark shapes moved. Massive, hulking warships, unlike anything the humans or Vorax had encountered. "They're moving fast," Chang said. "Long-range scans identify them as the Predator Empire's dreadnoughts. But this is a fleet unlike the one we just fought." Rivlik's voice crackled over the joint comm channel. "The Predators are here in force. This is no raid, it's an invasion." Pierce's eyes hardened. "How many ships?" "Too many to count," Chang answered. "They're regrouping and preparing to strike. If they break through, this entire sector falls." A chill ran through the room. The Predator Empire was a whispered nightmare across many star systems, a ruthless force that enslaved or exterminated every species it encountered. "We need to form a true alliance," Rivlik said. "Not just a temporary truce. This threat is bigger than any one species." Lana nodded, rubbing her temples. "Agreed. But trust is thin after the last standoff. How do we move forward when suspicion still lingers?" "By fighting together," Rivlik replied, his tone grim. "Or dying separately." Days passed in a tense stalemate. Human and Vorax engineers worked side by side, sharing technology and knowledge in a way neither had ever imagined. The alien cold precision meshed awkwardly with human improvisation, but together, they made progress. Captain Mara Jensen, recovering from her near-fatal strike against the Predator command ship, visited a Vorax engineer to study their shield technology. Their grudging respect blossomed into something resembling camaraderie. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, Lana and Rivlik coordinated joint patrols, sharing intel and strategies. Every meeting was a test of wills, every conversation a chess match. "We can't underestimate them," Lana said during one briefing. "The Predators are cunning. They'll exploit any weakness." Rivlik's eyes narrowed. "Nor can we underestimate each other." Suddenly, a new crisis erupted. Sensors detected movement within the asteroid cluster, shadows slipping between rocks, ships smaller and faster than either fleet's patrols. Saboteurs? Scouts? No one knew. A human reconnaissance team stumbled upon a Predator ambush. Mara Jensen led the squad, dodging energy blasts as the Predators struck with lethal precision. "Get to the extraction point," she barked. But the ambush was a trap designed to break their fragile alliance. In the chaos, a Vorax pilot was critically injured, saved only by Jensen's quick reflexes. The incident forced both sides to confront an uncomfortable truth. They were being manipulated. Back on the ISS Vanguard, Lana addressed the Joint Command. "The Predators are using subterfuge to sow discord between us," she said. "They want us divided. We have to be smarter." Rivlik's voice was cold but resolute. "We will not fall for their games." A plan formed. The humans and Vorax would share intelligence more openly, coordinate joint patrols, and conduct combined strike missions to root out the Predators' infiltrators. The uneasy alliance was becoming a real partnership, born from necessity but forged in battle. Later, in the dim corridors of the asteroid station, an encrypted message arrived. It was brief but chilling. "You think this is the worst? Wait until the Shadow Fleet awakens. The message sent a ripple of unease through the command staff. "The Shadow Fleet," Mara Jensen whispered. "That's just a legend." Lana shook her head. Legends have a way of becoming real. As the Predator fleet gathered strength beyond sensor range, the human and Vorax forces prepared for the fight of their lives. Old grudges had to be set aside. The survival of both species depended on it. Admiral Pierce looked out at the starfield, the weight of the coming war pressing down on her. She whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." The asteroid cluster's jagged rocks cast long shadows as the combined human and Vorax fleet prepared to launch their first coordinated patrol. For the first time, ships of two very different cultures flew side by side, their crews forced to trust each other or die trying. "Admiral." Lana Pierce stood on the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, watching as a Vorax cruiser slipped into formation alongside her flagship. The Vorax commander, Rivlik, was there too, his cold gaze fixed on the displays. "This alliance is fragile," Lana said quietly. "One wrong move, and it's back to shooting at each other." Rivlik's voice was measured. "But necessary. We survive or perish together now." Captain Mara Jensen led a mixed team of human and Vorax scouts on a daring reconnaissance mission. Her pulse quickened as her fighter slipped past rocky outcroppings, the silence of space broken only by her steady breathing and the hum of engines. Beside her, Vorax pilot Varnak flew with precise, calculated movements. The two had barely spoken since the alliance formed, but their shared goal pushed them forward. Suddenly, sensor pings lit up the cockpit displays. An ambush. "Predator scouts," Mara warned. "Ready your weapons." Varnak nodded curtly. "Engaging." The fight was brutal and chaotic. Predator ships darted from behind asteroids, firing plasma bolts that scorched the void. Mara's fighter spun wildly, dodging blasts and returning. Fire. Varnak's shots were precise, but their enemies were relentless. "Cover me," Mara shouted as she broke off to intercept a group of predators targeting Varnak's rear. For a tense moment, they fought back to back, their different styles clashing but complementing each other. Mara's impulsive maneuvers forced the predators into mistakes. Varnak's cold precision finished them off. When the skirmish ended, both fighters were battered but alive. "Not bad for a human," Varnak said, voice low. Mara smirked. "Not bad for a lizard." A brief, unspoken respect passed between them. Back on the ISS Vanguard, Admiral Pierce and Commander Rivlik coordinated joint operations. They argued, debated, and slowly learned each other's ways. "The Vorax strategy is flawless but rigid," Pierce noted during a briefing. "Humans are unpredictable, sometimes reckless, but that unpredictability saved us in the last fight." Rivlik agreed. "Your chaos is a weapon. It unsettles our enemies, and sometimes us. The alliance grew stronger with every battle, every shared victory and loss, but tensions simmered beneath the surface. A faction of Vorax officers distrusted humans, seeing them as reckless and undisciplined. On the human side, some feared the Vorax's cold logic masked darker intentions. During a tense negotiation in the station's command center, a heated exchange broke out. "You risk everything with your impulsive actions," a Vorax captain snapped. "And your refusal to adapt nearly cost us lives," a human officer shot back. Admiral Pierce slammed her fist on the table. "Enough! If we fracture now, the Predators win." Rivlik stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "We must trust each other or die divided." The uneasy peace shattered when a Predator assassin struck deep inside the station. Chaos erupted as alarms blared. Security teams scrambled through narrow corridors, hunting the intruder. Mara Jensen led a mixed search party moving swiftly through the dim metallic hallways. They cornered the assassin in a shadowed maintenance bay. A fierce fight followed, quick, brutal, and deadly. Mara's squad barely escaped with their lives, but the assassin was captured. The event shook both fleets. It proved the Predators' reach was deeper than anyone feared, and it tested the Alliance's resolve. In the aftermath, as the wounded were tended and the station repaired, Mara found herself alone with Varnak in the dim glow of the engineering bay. "We fight differently," Mara said quietly. Varnak nodded. but we fight together. A fragile bond had formed, not just between two pilots, but between two species. As the combined fleet prepared for the next battle, Admiral Pierce addressed her crews. "We're not just allies because we share a common enemy," she said, voice steady and inspiring. "We're allies because we choose to be, because we believe in something greater than fear and suspicion." Rivlek's voice echoed alongside hers. "Together, we are stronger than the sum of our parts." The fleet launched once more into the dark expanse, the unlikely alliance tested but unbroken. The war against the predators was far from over. But now, humans and Vorax faced it not as strangers, but as comrades. And in the cold depths of space, unbreakable bonds were forged. In the fires of war, the asteroid station, once a silent relic drifting in the void, now stood as the last bastion against the Predator Empire's relentless advance. Its metal walls trembled under the relentless bombardment, and the air inside was thick with smoke, alarms, and the cries of the wounded. Admiral Lana Pierce watched the unfolding siege from the command deck of the ISS Vanguard. Her face was set, every line carved by exhaustion and resolve. "The Predators have us surrounded," she reported grimly. "They're cutting off all reinforcements and supplies." Commander Rivlek stood beside her, his usually impassive expression hardening. "We must hold. If this station falls, so does the sector." Down in the cramped corridors, Captain Mara Jensen and Vorax pilot Varnak moved like shadows, leading squads of mixed human and Vorax soldiers through the station's labyrinthine passages. The Predators were everywhere, ruthless and cunning, striking from hidden vents and sealed bulkheads. A sudden explosion rocked the corridor ahead, debris raining down. Jensen dived, dragging a Vorax soldier to safety. "We can't keep this up," she shouted over the noise. "They're breaching the lower levels." Varnak's voice crackled in her comm. "I'm deploying reinforcements. Hold your position." The battle for the station was brutal and chaotic. Humans and Vorax fought back to back, their differences set aside as they faced the common enemy. Mara's squad used guerrilla tactics, sabotaging Predator supply lines, setting traps in ventilation shafts, and striking with surgical precision. In one narrow corridor, Mara and Varnak found themselves cornered by a Predator patrol. Outnumbered and outgunned, they fought fiercely, using the station's tight confines to their advantage. Varnak's plasma rifle hummed with deadly accuracy, while Mara's instincts kept her one step ahead of every attack. When the last Predator fell, Mara gasped. "We made it." Varnak nodded grimly. "But this is only the beginning." Back on the command deck, Lana monitored the situation with growing concern. "The Predators are adapting," she said. "They've started using cloaking technology. Our sensors can't detect them until it's too late." Rivlek frowned. "Our weapons are barely scratching their armor. We need something stronger." Suddenly, a technician reported a breakthrough. "We found a hidden chamber in the station's core. It contains an ancient weapon, a relic from a lost civilization. Its power source is unstable, but if we can activate it, it might turn the tide." Lana and Rivlek exchanged a glance. "Prepare a team," Lana ordered. "This weapon could be our salvation, or our doom." The team that entered the station's core was a mix of human engineers and Vorax technicians, led by Captain Mara Jensen. The chamber was a cavernous vault filled with strange glowing technology humming with raw power. Mara's breath caught. "This is unlike anything I've seen." One engineer began the delicate work of powering up the weapon. The station shook as energy surged through ancient conduits, lights flickering and warning sirens blaring. Suddenly, the weapon roared to life, a massive beam of blue energy blasting into space, striking the Predator fleet with devastating force. Ships exploded in fiery blossoms, and the tide of the battle shifted dramatically. But the weapon came at a cost. The station's structural integrity began to fail. Cracks spiderwebbed across bulkheads and gravity flickered in waves. Lana's voice was urgent over the comm. "Evacuate the core. We can't hold this much longer." As the station began to collapse, the Allied crews fought a desperate retreat. Mara and Varnak covered the withdrawal, fending off predators until the last moment. The ISS Vanguard and Vorex cruisers provided cover fire, shepherding the survivors to safety. The ancient weapon had shattered the predator assault, but the station was lost. In the aftermath, the Alliance mourned heavy losses. The station was gone, but the predator fleet was crippled. Admiral Lana Pierce addressed her weary crews, her voice steady despite the pain. We fought with everything we had. We lost much, but we did not lose hope. Rivlek stepped forward, solemn. This victory is ours, for now. But the predators will return. Mara Jensen, bruised and battered, looked out at the stars. We'll be ready. The war for the sector had entered a new phase. Humanity and the Vorex were no longer just survivors or strangers. They were warriors united by fire and blood, and in the cold darkness of space, their unbreakable bond would be the galaxy's last hope. The combined fleet drifted in the calm aftermath of the siege, battered but unbroken. The ISS Vanguard floated near the edge of the asteroid cluster, a silent sentinel watching the stars. Its hull bore scars of the fierce battle, yet its engines remained ready. Admiral Lana Pierce stood alone on the observation deck, staring into the endless void. The war had taken much from them: ships, lives, hope. Yet the enemy had not yet broken their will. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. The ship's AI, Eloise, spoke calmly. "Admiral, we have intercepted an encrypted transmission from the ruins of the silent station." Lana's brow furrowed. "Play it." The bridge crew gathered, eyes fixed on the main screen as strange, indecipherable symbols streamed across. Lieutenant Chang worked furiously at his console. "It's an ancient code, but it's partially corrupted. I'm trying to decode it." Minutes dragged like hours. Finally, a voice emerged, garbled but clear enough to send a chill through the room. "To those who find this message, beware the Shadow Fleet. They awaken from the void. The true enemy lies beyond your wars. Unite, or perish." Lana exchanged a grim glance with Commander Rivlek, who had joined them on the bridge. "The Shadow Fleet," Rivlek repeated, voice low. "A myth until now." Days passed with growing urgency. The Alliance poured resources into deciphering the message, uncovering fragments of lost history and warnings buried in forgotten archives. Captain Mara Jensen worked alongside Vorax historian Kyle, poring over ancient texts and star charts. "The Shadow Fleet was an armada from an extinct civilization," Kyle explained. "They vanished millennia ago, their technology rumored to be beyond comprehension. Stealth ships, weapons that bend space and time." Mara shivered. "And now they're coming back?" Kyle nodded gravely. "If the message is true, they seek to consume everything. All our battles are but preludes." Meanwhile, intelligence reports indicated strange activity at the far edge of their sector. Sensor arrays detected anomalies, ships moving without signatures, distortions in space that defied known physics. Admiral Pierce convened an emergency council with Rivlek and senior officers. "We need to investigate," she said firmly. "We can't face a new enemy blind," Rivlek agreed. "A joint reconnaissance mission. We send our best." Mara Jensen volunteered immediately. "I want to lead," she said. "We'll find out what's out there before it finds us." The reconnaissance fleet, an agile mix of human and Vorax vessels, slipped through a newly discovered wormhole, emerging in uncharted space. The stars here were strange, the void darker than any they'd known. Mara's fighter led the way, scanning for any sign of life or activity. The tension was palpable. Every shadow could hide death. Suddenly, sensors flared. "Multiple contacts, moving fast," Chang reported. The fleet braced as sleek, black ships emerged, shapes shifting and shimmering, cloaked in advanced stealth technology. The Shadow Fleet had come. The battle that followed was unlike any before. The shadow ships struck with terrifying precision, their weapons warping reality itself, ripping holes in space and sending shockwaves that disabled entire systems. Human and Vorax crews fought desperately, their combined tactics barely holding the line. Mara's fighter danced through the chaos, targeting a command ship glowing with eerie energy. "Hold on, Varnak," she said to her Vorax wingman. "We're going in." They launched a daring assault, weaving through gravitational distortions, their weapons finding weak points in the enemy's armor. With a final, thunderous blast, the command ship exploded, sending ripples through the Shadow Fleet. But victory came at a price. The wormhole they'd used to enter this sector began to collapse, destabilized by the battle's energy. The fleet was trapped. Admiral Pierce's voice crackled over comms. "Prepare for emergency jump. We'll find another way home." As the fleet scrambled to escape, the Shadow Fleet's ominous warning echoed in their minds. Unite or perish. Back aboard the ISS Vanguard, Lana stared at the star map, the weight of the coming war heavy on her shoulders. "This is no longer just a fight against predators," she said. "It's a war for the galaxy's future." Rivlek's gaze was hard but resolute. "And we will face it together." Mara, recovering from the mission, joined them quietly. "We've seen what's out there," she said. "We need every ally we can get. No more secrets, no more divisions." In the cold depths of space, the human and Vorax alliance stood as the last hope. But shadows lengthened, and the true enemy waited, patient, powerful, and hungry. The war had only just begun. The battered fleet had returned from the void, but its silence was heavier than any victory. The ISS Vanguard floated like a wounded beast in the dark, its crew weary and scarred. Outside the viewport, stars blinked cold and indifferent, unaware of the war brewing in the shadows. Admiral Lana Pierce stood once again on the observation deck, eyes scanning the starfield as if searching for answers among the cold points of light. Beside her, Commander Rivlek remained stoic, a pillar of unwavering resolve. "We can't fight like this," Lana finally said. "Each battle strains our forces thinner. The Shadow Fleet is more than a myth. It's a weapon of extinction." Rivlek's voice was quiet but firm. "Our alliance was born of necessity, but now it must become a beacon. We must gather every willing species in this sector, or be consumed." Back in the command center, an urgent message lit up the console. A transmission from the neighboring systems, fragmented but clear enough to be understood. "To all sentient life, a galactic menace awakens. Join or face oblivion." The message was broadcast across the sector, a desperate plea from Lana and Rivlek. It was the beginning of a call to arms, unlike any before. Captain Mara Jensen was tasked with leading the diplomatic mission, a role she never wanted but embraced out of necessity. She traveled aboard a sleek Vorax diplomatic cruiser, her squadron providing escort as they ventured to distant worlds. Their first stop was Tivar, a planet known for its fierce warrior clans and formidable defenses. The Tivar Council was skeptical, distrustful of humans and Vorax alike. "Why should we risk our lives for an alliance that was forged in fear?" the Tivar chieftain challenged during the tense negotiations. Mara met his gaze evenly. "Because the enemy doesn't discriminate. They will consume every world. Together we stand a chance. Divided, we fall." Back on the cruiser, tension simmered beneath the surface. Vorax diplomats exchanged cold glances with human officers. Long-held prejudices and wounds ran deep. Varnak approached Mara in the ship's dimly lit lounge. "You carry their hopes on your shoulders," he said quietly. "But hope is fragile." Mara nodded, exhaustion etched on her face. "Fragile? Yes. But it's all we have." Meanwhile, the enemy did not rest. Sensors detected increasing Shadow Fleet incursions, cloaked vessels slipping past patrols, spreading destruction and fear. Entire colonies were wiped out before they could mount a defense. On one devastated world, the remnants of the population sent a distress beacon that flickered weakly through space. Rivlek watched the signal with grim determination. "We must act swiftly. Every moment we hesitate costs lives." The combined fleet began preparations for a massive counterstrike. Ships from allied worlds gathered, their crests and flags a mosaic of unity. Admiral Pierce stood before the assembled commanders, her voice ringing with conviction. "This is our last chance to turn the tide. We will strike at the heart of the Shadow Fleet. We fight not just for survival, but for the future of every species in this galaxy." The room erupted in determined nods and murmurs of agreement. In the quiet moments before battle, Mara found herself once again beside Varnak on the cruiser's observation deck. "We've come far," she said softly. "But I fear what's to come." Varnak's eyes reflected the distant stars. "Fear sharpens the mind. It will keep us alive." Their hands brushed briefly, a silent promise between unlikely allies. As the fleet jumped into the darkness, heading toward the unknown core of the Shadow Fleet's power, the weight of countless lives rested on their shoulders. The storm was gathering, and when it broke, the galaxy would never be the same. The combined fleet surged through the void, engines burning bright against the blackness as they approached the Shadow Fleet's hidden stronghold. The tension aboard every ship was palpable, a mix of dread and fierce determination. This battle would decide the fate of not only the human and Vorax alliance, but every world caught in the Predators and Shadow Fleet's path. Admiral Lana Pierce stood on the ISS Vanguard's command deck, her eyes fixed on the battle map pulsing before her. Ships from dozens of allied species formed a jagged crescent poised to strike. Beside her, Commander Rivlek's calm presence was a steady anchor. "Prepare for engagement," Lana ordered, voice steely. "We go in hard and fast. There's no room for hesitation." The Shadow Fleet emerged like phantoms, their black, shimmering ships twisting and flickering at the edges of sensor range. Their weapons emitted strange pulses that distorted space itself, warping light and sound. This was a force beyond anything they had faced before. Captain Mara Jensen piloted her fighter with unwavering focus, flanked by Vorax wingman Varnak. Around them, the battle erupted in a cacophony of explosions, energy beams, and shattered debris. "Stay close," Mara shouted over the roar of combat. "We take out their command ship and cripple their fleet." Varnak's plasma cannons blazed as he took down cloaked enemy fighters while Mara weaved through the chaos, her heart pounding. The fight was brutal. The Shadow Fleet's technology bent reality, tearing open temporary rifts that swallowed ships whole. Human and Vorax fighters adapted quickly, using combined tactics born of hard-won trust. In the thick of the battle, Mara and Varnak spotted the command ship, a massive vessel pulsing with unnatural energy. "We're going in," Mara said grimly. Together they dodged through layers of defense, Varnak covering her blind spots. Mara's fighter unleashed a barrage of missiles, each finding a weak point as the ship shuddered. Inside the command ship, Admiral Pierce led the boarding party, a mix of elite human marines and Vorax warriors. They fought through corridors, filled with alien machinery and shadows, every step forward a battle. The air was thick with tension and the faint hum of the ship's dark energy. They reached the core chamber, where a pulsating crystal thrummed with immense power. "This is the source," Pierce said, voice steady. "We destroy it, we cripple them." The Marines planted charges as Vorax technicians worked frantically to override the defenses. Just as the countdown began, enemy reinforcements flooded the corridors. Back in space, Mara and Varnak covered the boarding team, fending off waves of attackers. The tide of battle shifted with every shot fired, every maneuver executed. "Pierce, status?" Mara's comm crackled. "We're almost clear," Pierce replied. "Charges set, prepare to evac." Suddenly, the core chamber exploded in a blinding flash. The command ship trembled violently, systems failing. "Everyone out," Pierce ordered. The boarding party raced to escape pods as the ship broke apart. Outside, the Allied fleet pressed their attack, exploiting the chaos to push the Shadow Fleet into retreat. As the command ship shattered, the rift it had been maintaining collapsed, restoring normal space around the battlefield. The remaining enemy ships faltered, their advantage lost. Admiral Pierce's voice came through loud and clear over the comms. "We've done it. The Shadow Fleet is broken." The victory was hard-won and costly. Many ships were lost. Brave souls sacrificed. But the Alliance had held, stronger and more united than ever. On the ISS Vanguard, Lana, Rivlek, Mara, and Varnak gathered to watch the stars that had witnessed their battle. We faced extinction and chose to fight, Lana said, softly. And now, we have a future. Rivlik nodded. Together we are stronger than any darkness. Mara smiled faintly at Varnak. No matter what comes next, we face it as one. In the aftermath, the galaxy began to heal. The Alliance expanded, new worlds joined, and the shadow of war slowly lifted. Though the scars remained, hope burned brighter than ever, because humanity, and its allies, had answered the call, and they would never falter again.